We're going to go through these together. As we go through these, do not let me continue on if you don't understand one of the steps. You must blow me up with questions if you have them. Okay? You've got to ask questions. I cannot read minds, so I need to know what's going on, what part you don't understand, so on and so forth. So for the past 2 weeks, we've only been dealing with right triangles and how to solve them. What do I mean when I ask solve a right triangle? What's up?
To find our side lengths and the measurements.
To tell me all the side lengths and to tell me all the angle measurements, whichever ones you're not given. Okay? So for number 1, I did put in some variables, but on the test and on other quizzes, I've asked you just to solve the right triangle. That means you'd have to tell me the measurement of this angle, this side length that's labeled X, this side length that's labeled Y. So you're missing 3 things about this right triangle. This is 90 degrees, that's 42 degrees, and the hypotenuse length is 21. All right, so finding this missing angle measurement, I know that I didn't ask you to do that this morning, but I mean it's very simple. We would just use the triangle sum theorem. Triangle sum theorem states that the 3 interior angles sum up to be 180 degrees. So 180 minus 90 minus 42 would be 48. So we can all find that angle measurement very quickly and very easily. These side lengths, however, different ball game. We know 3 methods. We know 3 methods of solving right triangle side lengths. That first method is one that you saw before you stepped foot in this classroom, which was Pythagorean Theorem. You've always had that. It always works for right triangles as long as you have 2 side lengths. You can use it. Another way is those special rights. And we learned those 2 special right triangles before we learned the third method, which was trigonometry. But those 2 special rights, you have your 45, 45, 90, and your 30, 60, 90. What we did is we always wrote the 3 angle measurements from increasing order. So we said 30, 60, 90. Those values are increasing. Or 45, 45, 90. Then below that, we would write the extended ratio that those side lengths always follow. So for 45, 45, 90, it was whatever the length of the leg is, whatever the length of the leg is, because the 2 legs are going to be congruent. And then the hypotenuse is whatever the length of the short leg is. I kept using L times the square root of 2. So it was L squared root of 2. After you've written those 2 lines, the third line is where your answers go, and you plug in what you are given. And then from what you were given, you write an equation and you solve for the unknown side lengths. Same thing with 30, 60, 90, but it was short leg was L, long leg was L times the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse was 2L. And again, below that, you plug in what you know, set an equation, and go from there. And then that third way was using trigonometry to solve for side lengths. So when you approach a problem like this, you need to think about that. Okay, I need side lengths. I'm asking you, can we use Pythagorean Theorem to solve for x and y?
No.
No, because these are not the same value, and we only have 1 side length, so not going to happen. Is this one of our special right triangles? Can we use one of those extended ratios?
No.
No. So our only hope for solving it for x and y, these 2 side lengths, is using trigonometry. So this is the thought process that you go through. Start with Pythagorean Theorem, see if it's a special right. If not, okay, we got to use trig. So here we go. Use what is printed on the piece of paper. What was printed, what was given to me is 42 degrees. Now I'm going to label the sides, all 3 of them, using that vernacular that the trig functions have or use in our formula charts, which is opposite leg, adjacent leg, and hypotenuse. So this is my hypotenuse. That's always easy to identify because it's on the other side of the 90-degree angle. It's always the longest one. Here is my opposite side because it's on the complete opposite side of the triangle from the angle that we were given. And this is like the perspective that we are, so that's opposite side. This is adjacent leg, and that's the hypotenuse. From there, we need to choose what variable we need to solve for first. I usually go in alphabetical order, but it doesn't matter. Okay? So let's just solve for x first. we know that we're going to use 42 degrees. What we need to figure out, are we going to use sine, cosine, or tangent? We've got to know which trig function we're going to use. Sine, cosine, tangent. It all depends on what are you looking for and what do you know? Like, what do you actually have? And so we are looking for the opposite side, and we have our hypotenuse. So you ask yourself, or you look at the formula chart, what trig function involves the hypotenuse and the opposite side?
Cosine.
Sine. Sine. S-I-N is the abbreviation, but this is the trig function sine. So sine of 42 is equal to, well, it's opposite leg divided by hypotenuse. So that's what we put, that's the ratio that we write. When you're solving for side lengths, you'll set this up, you'll actually plug in a numerical value for your angle measurement, and then the next thing you do after you have it set up is put the trig function over 1. Because now this equation looks like something we're used to. It looks like a proportion. We can solve proportion. We can cross multiply and sometimes divide. But not all the time. It won't always be necessary. So my cross product will be x times 1 is just x. And then I have 21 times the sine of 42. From here, this is my cross product. Sometimes we will have the variable solved for. X is this. So for this example, I am done for my exact answer. This is exactly 21 times sine of 42. But then we can type it into our calculator to get it an estimated value. So an estimated value, plugging it into our calculator, what do we first need to check about our calculator before we do trig? Make sure it's in degree mode. Make sure it's in degree mode. So my calculator is in degree mode. I checked that. So now I'm going to do 21 times sine of 42 degrees. It's going to look exactly like this when you type it in. 21, multiplication symbol, sine, 42, close the parentheses. It'll look just like this. And it comes out to be rounding to the nearest tenth. That's what I asked, round to nearest tenth. It should be 14.1. 14.1. And so I'm going to use correct notation. I'm going to have that x is about, use the wavy equal signs, it's about, because this is a rounded answer, 14.1 units. And I always circle or put an oval around my rounded, because it's round. So this is exact, boxed, rigid. This is an exact answer, rounded answer. Any questions on how to solve for x? Alright, so we have x, we have an estimation, we have the exact answer. But when we go to y, the variable y, still use what is printed on the piece of paper. Use what is given to you. Don't change angles, just right here. Because now I'm solving for my adjacent side, and I still have my hypotenuse. We're still going to use 42 degrees. We're still going to use our hypotenuse, but now we're searching for the adjacent leg. So we need to ask ourselves, we need to figure out what trig function am I going to use to solve for y. So you look at your formula chart, or you just look at the top of your piece of paper, because maybe you wrote SOHCAHTOA, or whatever acronym that you learned to memorize these. What trig function involves the hypotenuse and the adjacent leg? Come on. What? Cosine. So cosine involves those two legs, the hypotenuse and the adjacent leg. It involves those. So then you look at your formula chart and you say, okay, cosine of some angle is the adjacent leg divided by our hypotenuse. So for this example, it's y divided by 21. Now when you're solving for side lengths, this is where you put the trig function over 1 and take your cross product. The cross product for this one is very similar to the other one. You get y is equal to 21 times the cosine of 42. Y is equal to. And so, again, for this one, when we took the cross product, the variable was solved for. So we were all good to go. Now we're going to type this into our calculator to get an estimated answer, 15.6. So y is about 15.6. Now we need to ask questions if we have them. Okay, a little bit faster now for number 2.